Yeah, we're live. Can't help what makes me dance. Every time I come on, I'm excited about it. Got new stuff to tell you about. You guys got new stuff to tell me about it. You guys get to complain about videos, all kinds of cool stuff. But today is really cool. Lots of good stuff happened. We'll start out with something I didn't mention in the description, and that's the Pontiac that I did the 400 for with Quadrajet. I think that the 350 motor and trans are out of that car, and then the 400 I think has gone in. So I'm going to pick up the 350 and probably do something with that and test it, and ultimately sell it for her so that she can get some money for it. Maybe I'll just buy it if it turns out that I like the Pontiac and want to do something with it. Either way, is that the money is just going to go to her, which will be awesome. But it's a 350, which I've never run before. I think it's a running motor, so if it is, that's perfect for the dyno. It also has a trans, which means that it could just easily go into some other kind of car, which is good. I'm sure it would fit right in the Nova. So Oliver and I were talking about that, along with other different engine combinations to run in the Nova. Tomorrow, speaking of the Nova, I'm meeting Oliver tomorrow early in the morning, and we are going to attack the Nova and change some suspension stuff. We're going to probably start with the rear suspension and then work our way forward. And the as cool as it is, the turbo diesel motor is probably coming out. It's got to come out to fix the rear main seal anyway, which is a little bit of work. And since it's out, he probably wants something else in there, so we'll figure out something else to put in there, and something that will give potentially, I'm hoping, more content for me, but more importantly for him, something he can drive around and it'll be cool, and it'll be fast if that's what he wants. There's lots of different motor and trans combinations that have potential to be whatever you want. If you want twin turbo 1,000 horsepower stuff, there's lots of stuff that will do that. If you want good fuel mileage, Chevy Sprint 1-liter Mafia motor, there's also that available. All of those things are possible. So it's we're going to be talking about that tomorrow, obviously, while we're doing all the work, and I'll be filming it, hopefully. So I'll have some videos, hopefully, on upgrading the suspension. We'll probably do the front first and then the rear, and then we'll take a look at things like subframe bushings and motor mounts and things like that, depending on what motor we end up putting in there. Along the way, as you guys know, guys that have had projects before, there's always stuff that is going to go wrong. There's always stuff that's going to have to be fabricated. There's always, hurdles and obstacles that need to be overcome. So all that will happen, and you just know that going in, having done 1 or 2 projects in my past 1 or 200. So that going in, and you just expect that. That's all just part of the deal. I know I need to go over there, and it has to happen in 2 hours, and it's all going to go right, and it's never going to do that. It doesn't ever do that. Case in point, the other thing that I wanted to talk about tonight is the Dodge Omni, and I'm working on that. I have for those guys that don't know, I have a 1985 Dodge Omni GLH, a turbo motor. The motor is out of it. It's being put back together so that I can do a bunch of testing on the dyno. I actually have 2 of them. I got one from the wrecking yard, which is a 2.2, came out of an 84 Dodge 600, and then I also have a 2.5 that came out of the Omni. So both of those are going back together, but it's taking longer than I thought. So a couple things. One, I'm doing work on the Omni, which is good because it's been sitting for a while. But I'm doing I've taken the grill off of the hood and the grill off of the front and the headlight buckets that are all plastic and stuff. And all of that has been cleaned and painted. I'm doing gloss black because I like gloss black. I know maybe that wasn't an original color. I think it looks better. It looks shiny. It looks good. And then I'm also going to do the other black things that are on the car. I'm going to redo the bumper, which I think is aluminum, but it was originally painted black, so that's going to get black. I'll see what I can do about some of the rubber molding and stuff that's there, either replace it or clean it and refurbish it, put Armor All on it, whatever you got to do. I'm going to do that. The same thing with the back rear bumper, and then any of the trim. The door handle centers are painted black, or they have a decal on them. So I want to try to, even though I don't have the motor yet for it, I want to try to address some of those things. Those are all things that I can do here at home, and I can do, basically on my own, so I can make it look better and it feels like I'm getting something done. I can clean it and do all that stuff. So, but what I was thinking while I was doing this work is, like, every time you lift the hood, because the grill that goes on the hood, it's just open on the other side. So we look in there, like, there's nothing in there. There's no engine, there's no trans, there's no nothing. So there needs to be one in there. So if you guys are out there, if my Dodge Omni guys or Dodge Turbo 2.2 guys, 2.5/2.5 guys are out there, if you guys know where I can get a running 2.2/2.5 motor, let me know, because I want to get one. Ideally, it's one in a, it's in a car that a guy's throwing away or whatever, or a car that's so badly rusted and stuff, but at least the motor still runs. That would be a good thing. I don't mind pulling the motor out. If it's a motor and trans that come out together, obviously I don't want an automatic. It's got to be a 5-speed. I don't care so much if it's a 2.2 or 2.5. I don't care so much if it's a T1 or a T2. This was originally a T1 car. Ideally, I would like a T2, just because I'd like to run the factory intercooler and air cleaner and all that assembly there, so that I could get it smogged as a T2 upgrade car, which I think I could do with the help from Mark Sanchez. So if somebody has one of those, even if it comes from a Dodge Daytona or something else, we'll make it work in this chassis. So, I do have a trans for it, and it is the upgraded trans, whatever the 5 after the 5 numbers are, upgraded trans. But if it has a stock trans, I'm okay with that, because really for this one, I would just be driving it around and not racing it around. We might do minor upgrades or whatever on the chassis dyno when we do that. But I'd be more interested in something that I could put in that's stock, and that I could hook everything up, put the cat and all that stuff up, and hook it up and get it running and get it smogged, so that I could drive it around. It's a cool little car, and it needs to be on the road, especially now that I'm starting to do things to it. I definitely want to get it painted at some point, because it's rough. I know that a lot of guys think that that's cool, and I'm definitely going to put the factory wheels back on it. And what I need to do, though, is I need to have those stripped and polished and cleared again, I'm sure, because it looks like the clear coat's kind of coming off of those. But they will look good, and so if those are going to look nice, and I'm going to have the stuff, all this black done, I'd like it to be at least reasonably nice. It's never going to be it's not going to be a Ferrari, it's not going to be a Bugatti, it's going to be a 1985 Dodge Omni, but at least it could be it could look fairly nice. So if somebody has something like that for the 2.2 guys or the 2.5 guys, please let me know. Send me an email, and hopefully I can buy that, pick it up, and get it in this Omni and get it running. I was hoping to do that, by the end of summer would be really kind of cool. So I got essentially 1 month left. Isn't the Daytona Trans different than the Omni? It probably is. Kevin takes a vacation time to come get the Omni done. Well, you do LSF while you're watching. I would actually like help getting the Omni motor swapped back in and running, because there are some things that have been done to this. So this isn't a stock one. If this thing was all stock, then my life would be a lot easier. But this thing is now no longer stock because of the motor, the configuration that was in there and the changes that they made to it. So if I had some kind of Omni expert there, you'd be well taken care of with all the pizza you could eat probably. So if I did have an Omni guy, that would be awesome, so that you could show me when I'm putting things in and putting some things in before they're supposed to go in, that I'd have to take the motor out again and redo it. That would be a good heads up. So project car videos. Yeah, this one is a project car. The Colt Vista, those are cool. I like the twin stick Colts. Uh-oh, Duke, you blew up your 727? See, that's really cool. Mark's the Drifter. I've got a Horizon with a 2.2 turbo swapped in it. That's really cool because that's like, that's like more stealthy. Most guys, a lot of guys on the road wouldn't recognize the 2.2 GLH anyway. But if it says turbo on it, you know it's going to be fast. But if you have a Horizon, that's like having a Rampage or something with the 2.2 swap in it. 2 live crews in the house. Yes. Let's see. I can scroll down now. You're going to need a turbo motor. I do want it to be a turbo. I'd like it to be a 2.2 or 2. Either one of them would be okay. I like the idea of the 2.5 just because I know it's going to be so much more responsive. I know there's a nice looking GLH, but I don't think they want to sell just the motor. What would they want for the car? Is the car reasonable? These things are going up in price too. I almost would like. I'm almost contemplating buying like a nice one that's money, but I don't know. I don't have a garage for that. Built a 91 Shadow. Those are nice. T2 is the best car. It is. I just a factory intercooler. Every turbo car should have an intercooler on it. Plymouth Sundance, another one of them. Car loves in the house. What happened to the head? The head, both of the heads that I had were damaged. The 2.5 was torched all the way across. I think that they can be welded and stuff, but I still would rather just have a complete running motor that I could put in that I know works. The one that David Vizart had is not either one of these, not either one of the broken ones. As long as it has the throttle body after the turbo. This doesn't. This has the throttle body before the turbo because this is a draw through because this is a non-intercooled one. They put the throttle body, they changed the throttle body position when they went to the T2 stuff when they made them intercooled. Yep. You got to look up twin stick Colt, man. The twin stick. Richard, check with Kramer and Kramer racing engines. I don't really want a racing engine, but just want a stock one. Surprised you found a 2.2. It's the only one I've seen, and it was that Dodge 600. Would you consider the Maserati engine? No, I don't want that one. The 2.5 that I have that I'm building is going to be more than enough if power is the need, and a 4-valve motor would be a better choice. Swapping a K-Series Honda in there would be the way to go, but a K-Series turbo motor. But we know that makes a lot of power. Having the 2.28 valve in there is kind of cool. Turbo S2000. I would rather put a K series than an S2000, only because this is front wheel drive. Snafu, Sean Murphy is the guy that you're looking for the Q-Jets. Sean Murphy inductions. You'll have what you want if you find a 4-cylinder Maserati TC. I don't want that one. That's a T3, right? No, is that a T3 or a T4? Sprint engine in the Omni. Yeah, that would be good. Joe, my uncle had a Sundance with a messed up wastegate. The thing was so fast for about a week. That's the problem with them, is that you could get them to make a lot of boost, but the programming and stuff for them was the problem back in the day. The TC 4-cylinder automatic. Oh, was it T2 common block? Okay, that would be a good one then. The 16 valve was only the manual trans. Okay. Yeah, Bob, if you Google Omni, lots of those high horsepower deals will come up. I think guys have gone 9s in the 8 valve. I don't remember the last time I saw one of the twin stick Colts. It would have been way back. Why have the last few episodes of Better Call Saul been so bad? I don't know. I actually haven't watched that, and I really like Bob. What's his name? If you haven't seen the movie Nobody, you should check it out. Bob Odenkirk. Okay. Odin. Yeah, the movie Nobody's good. He's really good in it. So I thought there would be a list of like 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 different 2.2 turbos that people had just laying around. Richard, I just remember another place that sells parts for the CT90. I just was cruising around on that today. I met my wife down for lunch, because I'm a biker. It's called Beatrice Cycle. So many 4-cylinder Mopar nerds. But if they were really cool, they would be 3-cylinder nerds because, sprint. Just saying. Some of the caravans and stuff came with the turbo motors in them also. I don't see very many Maseratis, sticks or automatics, to be honest. I don't remember a lot. I have no idea when the last time I would have come across one of those in the wrecking yard. Yep, the Geo Metro. Well, Chevy Sprint Turbo. We never called those Geo Metros. Because, the turbo guys are kind of snooty, so. Although you did look longingly at the Metro XFI fuel mileage. 243 is worth it on my 5.3 Gen 3 Stage 4 cam. If it's an NA motor, maybe. Not a lot. On a turbo motor, I wouldn't waste your time. So now budget Aston Martin V12 build. Eric, I'm tearing down a 95 C50R engine for rebuild at this moment. The turbo Rampage would definitely be cool. Your Maserati does 185. You lost your license, now you can't drive. None of the turbo 4-cylinder Maseratis would do 185. Lots of Barons, and like I said, the 600s. Did you do any videos on the Ford FE 390? I have not. I've not run one on the dyno yet. Skinny had an 89 turbo minivan. They only made them for 2 years. So those are rare. Although you would, I just don't know how many minivans they made. I know they sold a ton of them. They sold a lot of the Caravans and Voyagers. I just don't know how many turbo versions they sold. I would imagine most of them would have been the V6. What's your plan for the computer for the 2.2? Does T2 motor need turbo upgrade, or is the stock? For what I want, a stock running T2 with a stock turbo and a downpipe would be awesome. Would be fine for what I'm doing, because all the things that I want to do, I can do later on. I don't know everything that they've done that he did to this car, because I don't know enough about him to know what kind of changes he made. This thing had some kind of T2 based motor in it. It had a front mount. It had a turbo upgrade. It had a T2 intake and throttle body on it. It was a 2.5. So it had a lot of stuff done to it. So at the very least, he's changed the harness to the different sensor positions. It also had it's got an external 3-bar map sensor on it. So it's got some things that are different about it. So far, right? It'd be nice to drive in with one and just swap put it in mine. Although if it drove in, I would just drive that one around maybe. I got in my automotive class. I want to turn his Caravan into a rally car. That would be interesting. I do like the Formula One, like the Renault Espace minivan Formula One car that they made, and I think that other people have done those now. But the Espace was done way back. Snafu, I have done testing on windage trays and crank scrapers and stuff. Definitely more power, better oil pressure, especially on a lot of applications like big blocks that have terrible windage issues. Big Lady 112, any time frame on 3800 Big Bang stuff? I don't know. I don't have a time frame on that. Snafu, I'll have to check and see if that video is up. I did a test on my Engine Masters deal that could be a video. I just need to look and make sure I have the photos. I thought that I did that oil system upgrade video already, but when you do a lot of magazine stories and things for various people, and then you also do videos on them, sometimes it all blends together, especially when you're talking about, thousands of stuff. Dan says he's done testing on windage trays and crank scrapers. Did you do any videos on it, Dan? Supercharged 350. You're late. You're here, though. It doesn't matter. How come nobody's asked? How come we don't have a poll? Okay, here's the poll for tonight. Is a carbureted LS motor and turbo 350 trans, with a shift kit, the best new motor choice for this 1972 giveaway Nova? Brian, I've got a complete 70,000 mile T1 2.5 from a LeBaron. Where are you at? I'm on a Shelby page on Facebook, and they state true Turbo 2 motors didn't come from the factory. The Shelby GLHS Turbo, which was a Turbo 2, Shelby did those, and they didn't come that way. But after he did those, then they did come from the factory that way. Darren, Richard, should the top and second ring gap be increased or just the top? Both of them. Also, do you reuse main bolts on the LS motors? Yes, and rod bolts. Can't find a T2, you'll just have to J swap it. That would be good, although I would rather put a K series in it. Carbureted J30 for the Nova. The A1s came with distributors. Richard, engine's good, trans not so much. I have a trans though, so that's not really a problem. What are the 3 trophies? Those are land speed records at Bonneville. Knoxville, Tennessee's in the house. Will the Lingenfelter CNC port at LS901 Corvette cylinder head work with what intake will fit an LM7? Is it an LS9? Is that an LS9's a rec port, right? I think an LS9 is a rec port. So if that's the case, it's not going to fit on a it's not going to fit with a cathedral port intake manifold. Special Agent Richard, learned so much from your videos. Just took my 68 Impala. Very nice. Like those. Hot rod out for the first time in a long time last night after getting everything dialed in. Had a super cute chick riding with me. That's all great. That's a win. Is the Holley manifold any good on the 5.3 Boss with matching 102 millimeter throttle body? I don't know what Holley manifold you're talking about. They make like 20 of them. So you got to tell me which one. Yep, Steve, the GLHS wasn't T2. It was T2-ish. It had the T2 like top parts. Yeah, Shelby just put the intercooler and the intake manifold and the tune and stuff in it, but not they didn't upgrade the internals yet. But I don't care about that. And I'm not looking for, I won't find a 86 T2 from a GLHS because nobody's going to get rid of that. What I'll find is a later Daytona T2, which will be a T2. So that's kind of the one that I'm talking about. For the 2.2 T2, is the TBI good enough, or does that need an upgrade? A T2 wouldn't have been a TBI. It's port injected with the throttle body on it. But if you're asking if the factory throttle body is good enough, it is. Although most people, I think, when they're upgrading it, put the V6 throttle body on there. But honestly, it's one of the tests I want to do to see where that even becomes necessary. I also have a TBI, an actually aspirated 2.2 TBI intake manifold that I do want to test on when I do the testing on the 2.2 and the 2.5. Big block Cadillac, that's not going to probably happen. The 8.1 would be a possibility. Should both top and second rings be gapped? I thought I answered that. Both of them need to be gapped. LS with ITBs and a Turbo 700. All the Turbo 2s are 2.2. Yep. I don't think that they offered any intercooled 2.5s from the factory, except maybe that I read about they had them in Mexico or somewhere. At an overdrive trans, the Nova, we were talking about that. We were talking about a 4.8 liter and a 4L60E with a controller on it. But I kind of like the idea of going, I think it would be cool to start out with a carbureted motor and a non-computer controlled trans. Is the engine searching for also found in a Dodge Rampage and a Plymouth Scamp Utes? The 2.2 was, but those are naturally aspirated. They didn't have turbo versions in those. Do you torque reused rod bolts more? I don't torque them more. I just follow the factory torque sequence. Yeah, the Oliver, the Nova's got 308s in it already. Unless you want it to be like an ultra freeway flyer. The Spirit RT before twin cam was 2.5 intercooled. I don't think it was. Spirit RT turbo. 2.2 liter. And it was the and it was a 4-valve 2.2, right? Yeah. It was the 224 horsepower one, but it wasn't a 2.5. It was a 2.2. So that's a T3, right? Yeah, we don't want to go really fast in the Nova. Plenty of ventilation in the floor. There is definitely flow through ventilation. Let's see how our poll is doing. Is the carbureted Ellis motor turbo 350 trans the best new motor choice for the 1972 giveaway Nova? 54% saying yes and 46% saying no. They want to see something else. Maybe I should have asked, is the Pontiac 350 and turbo 400 that is behind it, I think, a better choice. The other option is that, and Oliver was thinking about doing a 4.8 with the Saginaw 3-speed with the manual trans. All U.S. Spirit RTs were 2.2 T3s. Okay. Lotus head design. Yep. Skinny, that was back in the day. That was cool. No 2.5s were intercooled, just the T2s. I swapped my mini intercooler and radiator assemblies when they were all over the junkyards. That'd been a good time. Pontiac for the win. Got an AR-15 out of the Colorado sitting on the floor of the shop. So that's the transmission from the that's a 5-speed trans. What is that out of? Danny, which intake would be fine for rectangular port? An LS3 is a rec port. The LY6 or all of those later rec port truck intake manifolds. And also Holley and everybody else makes rec port intake manifolds available for that. A 4.8 with a turbo 350 might make 269, 302, and will get gapped by a stock Camry. There's no way a stock Camry would beat a 4.8 with a turbo 4.8 and a turbo 350 in that Nova. I got $5. Line up your stock Camry anytime. Buick 455. Lots of guys liking the Pontiac idea. Admiral, the Boss is back. Is it a 429? Boss 429? Boss 302? Boss 351? Look up 1990 Spirit ES. Okay. SPECS specs. So this is a 2.5 turbo 1. Non-intercooled is what I'm seeing. Okay, let's see. The L33 that's a good engine. Admiral, I told you there's no such thing as a Boss 6.2. Boss 379. Dan, you don't want to do a low buck Boss 429 build? How many times do you reuse rod and head bolts? I don't think I reuse them a whole bunch. The times when I reuse stock rod bolts are when we're doing big bang motors, and so I take it apart and then put it back together. And so one time, head bolts I've reused a lot, but I don't use stock head bolts when we run boost on stuff though. I have before, but typically I put in head studs or at the very least head bolts if that's what I have. In the Turbo LS Turbo 350 pole sounds good, but I like to see a Turbo 400 instead. Well, the 4.8 isn't turbocharged; it's just carbureted. 4060 is just an overdrive, yeah. Turbo 350. Have you researched 16 valve conversions? Yeah, I have, but would never do that on this motor. Does 700 NA horsepower on under 400 cubes not sound good to me? It does sound good, but still, nobody does that. Nobody makes that. Nobody does anything with that motor. Nobody builds it. Nobody runs it. Nobody tests it. No, it's never even, as far as I know, I've never even seen one of those ever run on the dyno ever. So I don't think that they may not even exist. Don't all the turbo motors have unequal length CV axles? No, I think that they did equal length ones to help stop torque steer. Hot Rod Garage did a turbo van, I think. A turbo 350 is plenty strong. You can beef it up and make it do what you want it to do. So you want to use grade 8 all thread? Actually, Admiral, I'd like to run one of those. I just haven't. Yeah, Eric, I thought that that's one of the upgrades that they made was equal length half shafts, so that they were, so they cure the torque steer problem. It doesn't cure it, but it helps. Need to compare that 2.2 to the 318 and the 360 all on boost. I think probably the bigger motor wins there by a lot. I just want to do 360 versus 318. Throw in the 340, sure. I would like to do that E58 360 from 78 and compare it to a tri-power, a 6-pack 340. 273 won't be a player, just like a 289 won't be a player. That's right. Oliver has a 340 in some other vehicle, right? Yes. The no on the poll is winning. No is up to 52%. But the trophy. Oh, by the way, the trophy is at Westech. It has arrived. I've called for quite a few days now and to try to find out what was there. I was told it wasn't, and then finally they looked around and found that it was there. It had been there for several days. So it has arrived. So awesomeness. So thank you, Racer D. Gonna get some custom Boss 379 valve covers. You should. That would be awesome. Raised letters. And then it should say turbo after that. If you run a distributor conversion on an LS motor, no, and honestly, I probably will never do that hooking up the MSD or Edelbrock or whoever. So they're all owned by the same company, but hooking that up to the factory coil packs and stuff is really the way to go, and not try to stick a distributor in that motor. The fast LSXRT is pricey. I'm considering I'm buying it. Do you think it would do any good on my 5.3? I have videos up on exactly what it does on a cammed 5.3. So please look at the videos on upgrading. I ran it on a 4.8. I ran it on a 5.3. I've run it on 6.0s. There are endless tests on how much power that intake manifold adds compared to a stock truck intake manifold, and also compared to the Trailblazer SS, which the Trailblazer SS is better than the factory truck one. The fast is better than both of those, but the gains that you get from the fast are only a function of the other things that you have there. If you have stock heads in there and you have a small camshaft in there, I wouldn't put the fast manifold on there. Shelby Club meet this Saturday. Steve, please let me know if somebody has a junky 2.2 or 2.5 laying around. What would the compression drop to in a 6-liter LY6, but with a 4-inch stroke on a stock length 6-liter rod? You could use stock rod lengths, but you have to use a piston that's designed to run that stock length rod, because they make pistons for a stock length rod. They also make pistons with the pin height for a 6125 rod with that 4-inch stroke. My Windsor is making 685 NA now and about to run 28 pounds with a 101. That's going to be a lot. Snafu, will you do more land speed racing? I think is the question. Yes, I do want to do that. I want to do it on something that's, I want to build another motor specifically for a class of monochrome. I think it'd be cool to de-stroke a 6-liter for the Nova. I wouldn't look at that as a de-stroke 6-liter, because if you look at it that way, all you're doing is taking power away. What I would look at it as is increasing the bore of a 4.8. So look at it like you're going up in displacement from the 4.8 and not down in displacement from the 6-liter, because a 6-liter is going to make more power than a D-stroke one does. What's the next other guy's motor? The trophy 4-cylinder Pontiac, the half of a 389 V8. Piston Junkie is a fast LSXR manifold better than Atomic MSD. Those were, if you look at the video that I did that has where I tested all the cathedral port manifolds, I'm hoping that you're talking about a cathedral port, because MSD doesn't make an atomic for a rectangular port head. On the cathedral port side, the fast and the atomic are very close. The fast makes more, has a couple of spots where it makes more in the middle part of the curve, but they made very comparable peak power. The Car Farm on YouTube just did a video on an 87 GLHS. I do like those cars. When did Shelby make a Shelby Edition Raptor truck? Does anybody know? I'm not familiar with that. John H., I'd love you to elaborate more on the Chevy Sprint Turbo. Did you use stock EFI? We did. I used the factory vane meter. I just adjusted it. We call it putting clicks in it. So we add clicks to change the tension of the vane meter. We went crazy with it a little bit when I was on the chassis dyno. I did a compound turbo setup for it. But before that, when we set land speed records with the Sprint, which I did, we used the stock turbo. We used a bigger downpipe. I made an air-to-water intercooler. We put different injectors in it. I put a slight rising rate regulator on it, which was 1.5 to 1. We also had a 2 to 1. Put a bigger fuel pump in it. I think we just put a stock Honda Civic Si pump in it because it was enough. We may have put a booster pump in it. I used ice water for the air-to-water intercooler. What else did we do? We did some mild porting on the stock head, but when we were doing that, we were tailoring that actually more toward drivability and fuel mileage, because I was trying to get the thing to go over 50 miles per gallon under cruise. And so when we did that and turned the boost up, which we had a manual boost controller, it made 100. We got up to about 120 at the tire, and that's as much as that turbo would do. So we needed a turbo upgrade on it, but we were running into problems with the stock vane meter. So it really needed, and I was trying to figure out a way to get a standalone ECU to work with the 3-cylinder, and we weren't successful with that. And then somebody sold the car. Nicholas, there's a 2.2 guy, 2.5 guy. So you did some testing on the van today? Let's hear about it, man. Eric, I get something from Turbos Unleashed. They do have good stuff there. That's the turbo and exhaust that I have for the 2.5. Big Lady, we did run production supercharged in the Sprint. Casey, 300 horsepower would be a good bit NA. I think we could get there with the right kind of camshaft, and because we have cylinder heads that flow, that have the ability to flow a ton, if I can get the right head on there, I think that that kind of NA power is possible. But with a turbo, we'll get a lot more than that, obviously. It is about time for a K24 Big Bang. Uh-oh, we've dropped down to back to 50% on the carbureted LS for the Nova. Does putting cams in an 03 supercharged Cobra make big gains? Take a look at the video that I have up already on putting a set of comp 262 cams in an 03 Cobra crate motor. And the answer is yes. It picked up 50 horsepower. Dan, never owned a Mopar or Turbo, Ford guy, but my friend has a GLH or Shelby version. Very cool. Do you have any tests or videos with a 351 Cleveland with Speedmaster 225 3V heads? Currently building one for a buddy. We did use some Speedmaster heads, not on a 351, but I think that those are the heads that we ran on the 400M. And so that made 565 or something with help from the guys at MPG. And maybe Bryce at Dr. J's also did something with those heads. K24A2, that would be a good one in the Nova. And so would an Atlas would be good. A J series on the Honda would be good. I mean, in the Nova would be good. Turbo Ford 4.9, the 6-cylinder. I do want to run one of those more just because I want to play with the intake manifold on them. And how about for the Nova, an all aluminum Buick 215 V8, a supercharger, and mid 60s Nova 3 on the tree. This has a 3-speed, but it came from the factory with a floor shift 3-speed though. Do we get more Pontiac videos coming? Yeah, I just mentioned that we have the Pontiac 4-cylinder trophy motor there, and I have to go pick up a 350. Foreign, I know, put a Honda in the Nova. What would be the build on the LS for the Nova? Just a carbureted 4.8 with a cam in it for right now. $292 in the Nova. That would also go good in there. 2JZs are getting expensive. They are, but you can still, I can still find the NA versions of those in the wrecking yard. You know, Richard, I don't want to brag, but I know David Allen Coe personally. That would be good or bad, depending on who that is. I'm not sure who that is. I did try to do more straight line braking. It's rare, but it won't turn until I let off the brakes. Why would that be the case? Yeah, you'd have more front grip. So Admiral, you want to see a V12 Coyote? Well, if they did a V12 LS, then a V12 Coyote, they should be able to do that. Does a Coyote has the same bore spacing as a Ford modular motor, right? As the rest of the modular family. So why can't you cut and slash Coyote heads together and put them on a V10? $292 versus 300 shootout. I honestly think the 300 wins that. I think that 300 is, something tells me it's going to have a better cylinder head. I know it has a better intake manifold because that Siamese port thing is not great. Although I think guys in Brazil are making 8,000 horsepower with them, so an L67 in the Nova would be good, a turbo one, or a compound deal. Yeah, Oliver, I agree. He said I was thinking that a carb 4.8 and a turbo 350 would be a good baseline combo for the track, then evolve from there, especially if you put it, because if you could take it, if we could take it and put it on a chassis dyno and then take it to the track, that's just really good kind of data. And especially if somebody, if we knew anybody that could run motors on the dyno, on the engine dyno, and then put it in the car and run it on a chassis dyno and then take it to the track and see what it does at the track after we weigh the car, that'd be like data overload. Nicholas, Holly on the van is hitting limiter before its set point, so had some issues, but overall good results. So have you taken it back to the track or back to the chassis dyno? You have to send me some info. .396 in the Nova with a 5-speed. That is good. Also hearing a spray can. Probably the fan. SB2 and a 6-speed. I do have a 6-speed. A 5-cylinder Volvo engine. And Oliver's actually a Volvo guy. He's got a Volvo engine there. When are you going to revisit the Bear and the Atlas stuff? I do need to. Shut the fan off and play some David Allen code. I guess I have to look up and see who that is. I don't even know who that is. So he's a country western singer? Is that what? Richard, you'll be listening to him for a few days once you get started. You feel like a 5-speed is out of place in a classic compared to a 6-speed? I think either of those transmissions are good. I like the idea of, I guess, kind of pro touring, but I like the classic, like the Nova 69 Camaro, 70 Camaro, whatever, the Chevelle. I like those body styles. And then having a good drivetrain in, like a modern drivetrain. Like if I had a Chevelle, which I want to have, it doesn't have to have an LS6 in it, or an L78, or an L72, or any of the L's really. Having a modern fuel-injected motor in it and something a 6-speed T56 or a 4L80E or whatever it is good, because I would like the combination of having that classic kind of muscle car and one that you could drive around and not have it be problematic. I have an 81 Fairmont with a 200 straight 6. What kind of numbers do you think I gave a turbo and a blow through? I don't know. I don't know about the TBI either. I'm not a big fan of those. I don't know what the 200 straight 6 makes NA, but if you did porting and, you know, a camshaft and stuff and then boost, if you could get that thing to make 150 or 60 horsepower NA, which I think is probably possible. What are the goals you'd like to see from a 2.2 or 2.5? The one I want in the car, I don't care what it does. I just want to drive around and have boost and run and be reliable. The ones in the ones I'm testing what I'm more interested in showing rather than some sort of absolute number, because honestly, I could care less about trying to make 1,000 horsepower with one, because I think it probably would break before you have to put a lot of money into for it to do that. I want to show what the things do, so we have answers. Because when I go on to all of the sites, all I have are questions. Well, what does the early head do? What does the bathtub head do versus what does the early one do versus the late one? What does the one piece do versus the two piece? What happens when I put a bigger throttle body on a draw through? How much is each pound of boost worth? What happens when I run E85? Any testing that I would have seen from way back was limited by the fact that they didn't run the same air, fuel, and timing on any of these tests. And so there isn't the kind of direct information that I want. And that's what I want to provide from this testing. I'm not building a motor to make lots of power. I'm putting together a test motor to do regimented testing to demonstrate what each of these things do. Making lots of power isn't one of the tests. That will ultimately come because we'll be running a ported head and a camshaft and lots of boost and an intercooler and E85 and turbo upgrade and yada, yada, yada. So some numbers are going to come, but that's not why I'm putting it together. I'm putting it together for all the information. Has anyone taken apart modern cam phasers and looked at why they failed? Do they fail in production cars? See, David Coe's in the house now. There you guys go. Okay. I showed up late, but I'm waiting for some good old Chrysler 4-cylinder action. I am excited about it. I like doing it because it's a new motor. I was really excited when we just started it, when we did a stand start. That was awesome. So that was cool. And I want to do more testing on it. I want to show what downpipe size does, what does a header do versus a stock exhaust manifold, because I've seen some of those things and they've been kind of flubbed up pretty bad. The Nova needs a Coyote or a T56. I have a 79 Chevy Love 5.3 liter LS swap with a 4L60, 2800 solid mile cam. The stock rear end will be sufficient. I think what rear end is in that? Is it a 79 Chevy Love? That's not going to have not even going to have an 8.5 inch rear end, right? How often do you do these live streams? I try to do them nightly at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So I'm sorry to say that this is not a political live feed. It's only about cars. So you're not going to be here anymore. Yeah, the Love would have had a small rear end, right? It's not V8-ish by any means. The Admiral, the cam phasers fail all the time on the EcoBoost and the Coyotes. See, I'm just not out there hanging out with all of the cam phaser people. Phasers would fail in the Atlases too, really? The Love is a small Isuzu rear 7.5 gear, unrelated to the corporate 7.5. So it's a 7.5, and it's not even the 7.5. It's a different 7.5. Light utility vehicle. Does that mean it has different headlights on it? Oh, Monza. Monza Racer, greeting. Bad news for my LS4 GXP melted under the hood fuse box waiting on parts. Uh-oh. Phasers are usually oil activated in solenoids. So the cure to cam phasers failing is to lock them out. Overextended oil changes, because do they have filters for the phasers? Because what are the flow orifices like on the phasers? Are they small enough that they could get gummed up and stuff? So what happened to all of our presidential comments? Knuckleheads. Give me more time to decide on cams I'm installing. Being an AM thinking truck Norris and better intake. Has anyone done any testing or teardowns on the 7.3 Godzilla? Any other small displacement or non-V8 engines that catch your attention to test? The LV3 was kind of cool. All of the 6-cylinder things are kind of cool. I'd like to do the 5-cylinder and the 4-cylinder Atlas at some time. Porsches don't need remote turbos. 2 more minutes. It's been an hour already. There's no way a Gen 1 EcoBoost should have a 10,000-mile oil change. I wouldn't wait that long on stuff. A sloppy style 6.2 Ford would be interesting. I run a GT40P rig daily. Nice. Are the displacement on demand systems any good? I think that they are kind of problematic for people. I mean, I like the idea of cruising on 4 cylinders or whatever. The V8 6.4 was certainly a problem. I think the DoD stuff is probably a little better than that. Very happy to help. Okay, time to close out the. The no's have surged late. Is a carbureted LS motor turbo 350 trans the best new motor choice for a 1972 giveaway Nova? 54% saying no and 46% saying yes. So we're going to end our poll right there. Put a 327 in the Nova. How about a 307 in the Nova? 46 is a new 100, exactly. And L69, there you go. So we'll do a quick poll. Just answer me really quick before I get off. How many people would like to see some dyno testing on an all-original L69 305? The high output 305 for the IROC or Z28. Just curious, do you have any videos of when you're road racing your Fox? I don't know. They would have been VHS back then. There's some Silver State ones, I think. Oh, the bots are back. The 305 is not, the L69 is not a tune port. That's an LB9. The L69 is actually a feedback quadrajet carbureted 305. Same motor basically as the LB9, but with a carbureted induction system. I can see a 307 versus a 302. .305s are awesome. I had one. They were actually pretty good for back in the day. Feedback quadrant 305. Come on, Dan. You can flip the AC lid over and do the whoa. It was available at the same time as the tune port. And we will flip the air cleaner lid, and I'll have to do a video of it. Well, it is. That should be the first deal. Now, Oliver, do you have the air cleaner lid for that? Do you have the air cleaner assembly for that L69? Larry, take a look at the videos that I have up for the testing I did for CarCraft, where I did a direct comparison on a 5-liter HO Mustang engine of that period, and also a 305 5-liter tune port Chevy motor of that era, and then we modified both of them in successive steps. Yeah, but we could hook any kind of 4-barrel, go to the wrecking yard and get any kind of 4-barrel factory kind of air cleaner that we could flip the lid over. Dodge needs a new Omni GLH. I agree. Okay, guys, I got to get going. Thank you all for showing up, and I will see everybody tomorrow. But I'll be over there wrenching on the Nova with Oliver, the winner of the Project Nova, and we're putting in new suspension. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. And boom.